This is a tough one because I might need to throw up some backlog material for you here. See if I can help you out. Once upon a time, this pattern screamer it's a pattern. There's wave functions to get to the pawn on the piece, to get all the images like right from this VS gear. It's for me to do it. It's a timed event, right? I'm gonna go to Google. I'm gonna find some pawn PNGs or IMGs or whatever variable I've been using inside of there. Number 1 1. They go on the same 1 0 1. Okay, and then when that goes to the next step, that gets into some office space. It's all torn up about, well, there's this type of doing it, and not necessarily just this type of doing it, because I'm still mind rating the code. That saw program that comes with, well, maybe there's a reason in some of this, or maybe I have to have a random number generator come around so I can actually make this one big map off of the lensing, and actually the angles then change to the screen, but it's still that what is it, convex lens bubble recorder. Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, it's going to help you deal with some of that squishy issue in physics. So it's a random number generator. Can I connect this? Can I not connect this? Is the reason to have it three phase here? Is this figure 4 and what the number is 1, 2, 3, 4, and the range of spectrums to I hat to J hat on what's up top in charm to the spin, or up top and spin. When you get over to this, it's this way with ultraviolet too, because this becomes the Laplacian of the type of information. And instead of having, when I throw this together and I need this all to be one screen, I need a magnet here and a sensor in the program to understand that it is that way, so it just automatically does it for me. Or I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with the squishy zone of it to be able to throw it in there, right? And sometimes, as a physical programmer, I don't mind being able to do that. The skill gap as far as the fingertip control on before I start to lose it might be relative to what topological standard I'm doing it with. What do you tell the kid in Space Marine? You're out there to clear that field, a Astartes program, some. Yeah, but then again, it might be that they got glitched into it, and you gotta give up all your sins and watch me do the job inside of here, track these ratings, because realistically, this turns down when you start to zoom in on it, right? Depending on that, the angle is going to change quite a bit. I've tried to put the snowflake on Goldman Sachs before, right? You put it on the day, and you start to predict, right? Or even you put it on the max and you start to predict what it's going to be. Now, short of a time dilated monster that's inside of there that says it's brand new stock listed today, but then it's so intense on what it does because of electron surge that you need some way to identify what the top and bottom is, or what's up and down, so that it's like it still has momentum, but it's down. That little angle right there is now a number differential 1 or 0 that's inside of what that is, about why it turns out 777 or 7 instead of 100 100. I quoted a 7 because numbers are made up like that, but that's a different animal. About everybody's got problems squared. All right, well, at any rate, the ones and zeros for doing tax code are real important to do that, right? That when that is a 1, because the timed event is bang. What a natural number, floating point number kind of puts it out to against as many people, the particle slit experiment, as you can put to it. And then it comes down here and you're breaking down what that program is, and you're seeing what that program can equate to in other forms. Like you're throwing a ball, going to get the ball, the field theory in general, because when people say, well, here's what's left, I mean, all people do experiment and then do the paperwork for it, who do they consider the 1? Now, again, this is still a pretty arbitrary question about the whole percentages on how much of this before I start seizing out, because ad space on here is going to get pretty crazy pretty quick about what this 8-bit code is going to do. As far as, I think it's a Potter code, but I was kind of looking at some ways to try to do a book cipher with it, because generally I do Sun Tzu with a Horseman code on a grid cipher system. So do you make it the 000 file as far as what the pattern screamer is in here for the ball skull map standard? you're just in your bubble zone up here. And if I really am not connected to physically anything in here, then what state of Latvia am I trying to drive inside of here? That isolation or motivation that's going to come with something like that. It's great motivational speech, but what you learn is that there are people too. It's like kicking the dog or something. Like they come in here and just tear up my station. I've been in the stone mill. Yeah, I left my gloves in there, my water bottle, and everything else, and I got done after a 10-hour day rolling a heavy wall out of the back of the pack, and I just didn't necessarily feel like jumping in there that fucking morning. You know what I mean? It's Top Harvest, usually Valentine Rabbit. And there you'll find some divine fusion. Now, as a pellet, me, her, you, anybody else, and the rig you put it in, Tony Stark's gear's not made for that, what is it, poisoning their, shit, I can't remember what it's called, but that would be getting it wet. Now, first they come off a little furry, and then they start eating after midnight and causing all kinds of hell about, well, that's a fun one, isn't it? It didn't help the kids at all, but obviously it's half of it. So it's one half of the issue, so there's only going to be 9 left. Yeah, it has those moments sometimes. We get there about robbing the bank. Forrest Gump over here. Sure, yeah. Some serial killer tried to kick it in, Yeah, in one way. You gotta live your life, but no, we robbing a goddamn bank, Larry. Of course I'll take on the Children of the Night. If I can get a Bigfoot in there in that stone mill, you kidding me? Like, I bet you'll be fine. I'll get you through it. If I can handle the other gorillas we got running around in here, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. This is as much a psychological trigger, not needing reels on the Enigma or the Fourier there, Laplace, whichever one it is for Hitler. I'm going to be switching that up quite a bit. This thing's going to move around. I got a code up here, got a code here, got a code here, got a code here. Because they're XY relative in different grid positions, you would need to know chirality like that. You would need to know how this algorithm works. If I wanted to do all this, there's a code segment here and a code segment here on any kind of combination of ways. I could do that as long as it's 80-20. Or special program codes that you could really throw into something like that. And that's the simple Caesar cipher under Molly Poly for Potter. When you're putting all that together, there's quite a bit of energy in all those sections. And realistically, there are very specific mechanics. As long as this is the sequence, and I'm saying that A in this regards is A in that regards off of these lines, then these bars right here become more important than any given code that is generated this way. Or in any combination from that point. There's 2 codes here. There's 2 codes here. They're one step apart, S and T, A and B, and 9, and it works out to be AA9B. Well, you're trying to compress all that information, which is really neat in 8-bit, isn't it? Under 36 characters. I couldn't use spaces and I couldn't use periods, but realistically, language aside, totally perfect English correctness may not be relative to a point in the Laplacian where it understands it from that standpoint instead of needing the basic rules of chess, right? Because then maybe, it's a little bit more different. 777.